I'm Matt Valley, and this is the Rock and Roll Research Podcast, where we share those super cool backstories and side gigs of the research and insights pros that you trust. Today's guest is familiar to many people tuning into the podcast already, I'm sure. I'm super excited to welcome Bianca Pryor, who is currently the Vice President at BET, supporting research for 10 plus business units across BET networks. And she's also a board member of the Insights Association, excellent organization, and chair of something they call the Idea Council at the Insights Association. Now, I have to say, I saw Bianca and her colleague Epiphany Espinoza speak at the Corporate Researchers Conference last fall, and it was amazing. You just don't expect, as part of a research presentation, to see people laughing and crying and cheering and being sad, and just like the full range of emotions. It was really something else. So super cool. Now, as busy as Bianca is, she devotes much of her spare time to her side gig and passion project, supporting the maternal health of Black mothers through action and technology. And she's here to tell us all about it today. So welcome to the podcast, Bianca.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you so much, fans. I'm really excited to be here today. Echoing everything Matt said, I think that is my journey. My journey has been a long career in insights, but also exploring other parts of myself. And I think, just my own lived experience has opened up other pathways for me to break into Femtech, to break into Black maternal health, and also becoming a mom and learning that, because that's a journey in of itself as well. So there's many sides to Bianca, and I'm excited for this podcast. I love that it's a safe space to be able to show up as our full and a whole self.
Awesome. Super cool. Well, we'll be getting into lots of that good stuff. And again, just super thankful that you have joined us today. So now let's talk, it is rock and roll research, right? So let's talk research first. Now, how'd you find your way into this crazy world of market research and insights?
Oh, I love this question so much, because research and insights is absolutely my passion. So believe it or not, it all started my junior year of undergrad. So I went to Virginia Union University, which is a small, historically Black college in Richmond, Virginia. And I was taking consumer behavior class. And when I stepped into the class, I loved that there was statistics, but there is also this very artistic, creative side. Like, how do you measure and the demographics of people who might see a piece of creative communication? And I was really nerding out on that. And I was like, I could see going on to study this even more deeply, just the notion that I could get into consumers' heads and minds and hearts on why they made the choices that they made. I love that. So back when it was like early days of Google, I was like, master's degree in consumer behavior. And literally like 3 programs came up. It was Purdue University in Indiana, a program in Canada, and a program in Utah. And I was like, I'm not going to Utah or Canada. I'll stick to Purdue, wherever that's at. And so I actually made contact with someone there at Purdue, and they were like, yeah, come on out, we'll fly you out. It was like a pipeline program, and I got to go for a couple days and tour the campus, as well as get really close to the department itself and learn more about consumer behavior. So that was actually my first entrance where I'd say I'm a properly trained academic researcher. So learning SAS back then, learning theory, and being able to apply all that. But getting to the corporate side, I realized I wasn't ready to stay for my PhD. And I said, I'd like to live a bit, make some money and see what's out there. So started figuring out how I could apply a degree such as consumer behavior. And it became clear I either needed to work at an ad agency or like a marketing shop, or I could go brand side and like work in-house in consumer insights. So I ended up just getting picked up by TNS, was like my real first quantitative, I'd say my quant side experience crack was at TNS Kantar, and was on the brand and communications team there for many different financial service companies. And that was back in 2007. And that was my first kind of ushering in. And then I've just soared from there, and really thankful for all the opportunities and doors that have been open. And I really attribute being at Brainjuicer, now System 1, to
Mhm.
really, really leveling me up and making that move from senior research consultant to senior vice president, and learning, things that were like just research management, all the way to like building teams, managing books of business,
Yeah.
setting vision, shepherding and guiding clients. So all that fun stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we have people on here. And of course, you talk to people in the research industry, and the story so often is, oh, I fell into it this way or that way. But you really planned for it, set it as a goal, and here you are. This is what you were excited about in college,
Yeah.
and you found your way here. So let me ask one question about it, because for a lot of people, it's a big change to go from, as you mentioned, like Kantar and
Mhm,
Brainjuicer System 1
mhm,
to the client side at
mhm.
BET. Tell us a little bit about that transition for you.
Absolutely. I always like to say my experience at TNS was like legit, like the Marines. Like I'm talking boot camp. They
Yeah,
flew us out to Toledo, and like we were trained on all the aspects of research, from like building sampling specs, to advanced analytics, how to do a successful and impactful kickoff meeting. Like that's how detailed those boot camps back in the day were. And so that really prepared me. I say, Matt, for the research management side and very much the project management side of it. So when I moved on to Brainjuicer System 1, I was ready. I was ready. The only piece, the unlock I needed to work at, was the client management side. And that came, I remember, like within our first few months, my boss at the time was like, all right, you ready to go on a pitch? I'm like, what's that? And but then I started to learn all the bits and pieces to selling, to pitching, to creating capabilities decks, to selling something, and whether it was a product, service, or even just an idea within the business, to gain influence from your peers to help push something up. So I would say that really set me up nicely was that experience from TNS, carrying it over to Brainjuicer. And then I really had all the right tenants, right? So now I was wearing all three hats by the time I came over to BET in 2019, 2020. I was ready. So now coming client side, the difference to me has been just navigating different relationships and
right.
um, the the politics is it's a new territory for me, but it's an exciting one because it's still, how do you create influence, flex your soft power, persuade, um, move the ball down the court, all of those things. How do you do that in such a way that you're getting more viewers, or you're getting more subscribers to BET Plus, or you're getting more folks to tune in to check out our social media. So all of these things, like it's my job to figure out how do the insights connect back to that. So I'd say I've been trained very well, and put in some interesting situations that, push me along.
Yeah, great. Cool. So we'll talk a little bit more about research in a minute, but let's switch gears here. Would love to hear a bit about Dr. Shalon's Maternal Action Project.
Sure, sure. Yeah, happy to share. So I, when I was at System 1, and this was about 2016, 2017, 2016, my best friend and I, who I met at Purdue, her name's Dr. Shalon Irving, we were actually pregnant at the same time.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so I was actually due April 2017, and she was due January 2017. It turns out, I used to laugh about this, like we just did not plan it well. Like it was a dream, two best friends, pregnant at the same time. It's like, great, our kids get to grow up together. We're so excited. But what we didn't think about is like, oh, you can't fly like to get to my baby shower, like so little details like that. But there was an unfortunate turn of events where I had actually delivered my son very preterm. So he came December 15th, 2016. So he was only 24 weeks old, 1 pound, 10
Oh
ounces.
my goodness.
Yeah, 13 inches long, itty bitty, micro preemie. And that kept me on the ground, and I couldn't be there for her delivery of her baby, which was early January. Shalon started not to feel well. So that's where the turn of events happened. She started not to feel well, and essentially had complications, very severe complications 3 weeks after she gave birth, and she ended up passing away. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
Yeah, and that was January 28th, 2017. So we actually celebrated her, or remembered rather, her 5-year anniversary last week. And that was a very difficult time, right? So here I am with a micro preemie baby in the NICU, who wasn't due to get out until March 2017. And my dear best friend, had passed away, and she just given birth to her baby, who did survive. It was a very traumatic pregnancy and experience. I will say that what I have done is turned that pain into purpose, and decided to, with her mother, Wanda Irving, we decided a couple years later, it wasn't until 2019, we obviously needed time to heal and raise toddlers, to prop up a foundation in Shalon's name, and that's called Dr. Shalon's Maternal Action Project, 501c3. And we said, let's do it. Let's go be on a mission to turn around the horrifying and alarming statistics against Black women, Black birthing people. Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die during or after childbirth, and that's according to the CDC. And when you think about, the industrialized medical complex that we have here, especially in the US, there's no reason for that, right? There's no reason why Black women should be dying at that rate. We have to figure that out. So through Shalon's narrative, through her story, we've made that our mission to tell it, to lift that up at Congress. We've spoken at Congress. We're behind the Momnibus Act. That's fully supported by Congresswoman Lauren Underwood, Congresswoman Alma Adams, Cory Booker, Vice President Kamala Harris. So we are really trying to make an impact politically on a public health front. And our newest venture is trying to do that through technology.
Okay.
Yeah, and last year we launched an app called Believe Her. So that's our take on what we thought, what would have made a difference, in Shalon's situation, if the doctors had truly heard her pain, and if they really truly understood what they were seeing with her body, they would have recognized that, the post-edema swelling in her legs was not normal, and they should have believed her and done something about it before it got that bad. So this space, it's a peer-to-peer app. It's white labeled. We work with our partners called iRelate. And so basically we welcome those who want to give advice, those who want to receive advice, come into this app, in this community. And we encourage you to give the advice, receive the advice, and just essentially co-creating and sharing and being a safe space. It's all anonymous. And whatever pain you're feeling, or whatever injustice you feel might have been had if you were in a prenatal appointment, or if you felt like a doctor talked to you a way that didn't resonate, or you felt like it was an act of obstetric violence, then use the app to communicate that, and we'll come on and help you and support you. And there's also resources in there as well.
Wow, I had no idea there was such a personal story that was underlying
Yes.
the foundation and the work that you're doing there. That's really great that it's a problem that you're tackling. I think it strikes me that somebody with your background, your educational background and your work history, the types of things that you've worked on, that you would be well suited to something like this. Are there elements of your research experience that you've applied to this work?
Oh, completely. Yeah. I'd say that I'll go back to my experience at System One, Brainjuicer, was it really allowed me to be like, a hardcore entrepreneur in that way, and that I could learn to set something up and as my colleagues would say, just get on with it, right?
Yeah.
And I love that bias towards action that I learned quite well there, and to just prop something up. If you have an idea, a concept, just get it off the ground. Like it's up to you to green light the thing. So I think I took a lot of those principles and applied that very much to setting up the foundation. So first, one of the first things I did was like, what's the competitive landscape like, for the Black maternal health space? And it became very clear. There were very specific swim lanes. You had the public policy front, public health. You had a small but developing swim lane for digital transformation and health. You had the OB-GYN route, so many different lanes, and we had to figure out where we were going to fit in. I'd say also if you check out the website, drshalonsmap.org, you'll see that the branding, the visual identity was again inspired by just my market research branding experience from prior days, just knowing like look and feel, color, how does all of that string together to tell that narrative? And we really worked with a great partner to help bring that to life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's so important because I think a lot of times people have a good idea, their heart's in the right place, but they don't know how to execute it. They hope that the cause is enough to carry it forward, and oftentimes that's not the case.
Correct. And I think being really insistent that we have something in our portfolio or in our offering, was really important to me. I was like, we have a wonderful, I say wonderful, but it's a very tragic and sad story, right? Losing my best friend, Wanda losing her daughter, Soleil losing her mother, but it humanizes the data. When you hear Black women are dying 3 to 4 times more likely to die during and after childbirth, it's a statistic. But when you tell the story, like, and if you push it further and say, and that statistic was Shalon, and Shalon was a daughter, Shalon was a best friend, Shalon had her PhD, she was a scholar, she was an epidemiologist, she was a mother. Like, that's when you start to feel that pain, and where you feel like, yeah, we have to do something about it. This is an absolute public health crisis.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So the question for you, Bianca, just reflecting on the presentation that I saw you and Epiphany give that I referenced earlier. It was very interesting to me because I was, like other people in the room, we were all sort of enraptured with what you were saying. And I came away feeling like I just heard this really interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
But when I reflected on it later, I thought, this really was a research presentation. There's all different sources of data that are being woven in here, qualitative, quantitative, viewership data, cultural data, all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So clearly you've got sort of mastery over what data is designed to do. So from where you're sitting, and so much has changed in media, right?
Yes.
So from where you're sitting, what do you see the future of research and insights looking like? What's going to be important?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say very much, in my world, in media and entertainment, we often say you have to feed the beast. It's so fast. And I'd say that in the same vein, we've seen the insights industry, it's moved to space that's more self-serve, DIY, transformative, quick. And I'd say it's moving to that space where it's becoming more decentralized. You're not seeing these giant insights departments any longer, and they're being enmeshed and ingrained in other departments, and as they should be. I think you can create that effect. I'd say it's a speed. I'd say it's speed. And I think there's also going to be a hunger for more. In our world, we call it advanced analytics, but I think in other spaces like tech, they're calling it big data, data science, machine learning, AI. And I think there's eventually going to be an expectation where those worlds collide, and we're going to have to understand that, and we're going to have to know how to whisper that and intuit what we're seeing in these different approaches. And I'm excited about it. I actually, fully embrace it. I also dabble in another organization called Black Women in Artificial Intelligence, because I'm just genuinely curious about what is that space. When I hear artificial intelligence, I'm like, thinking Star Trek and all these other, interesting data models, and it excites me. And I'm very curious about it, because I do see a world where insights, traditional insights, market research, and AI, ML, big data, all that are going to just draw closer and closer to one another. And I want to be on the frontier of that.
Yeah.
It's
exciting. So much has changed, especially recently. There's
Mm-hmm.
all the possibilities. Super cool.
Yeah.
So as you think about this is a podcast, right? And I'm sure there are podcasts, blogs, all kinds of sources. Doesn't matter the format. And I mean, working in media and entertainment, you can choose whatever you like, right?
Yeah.
So what sources do you turn to for enjoyment, inspiration, etc.?
Yeah. So hands down, love me some music. So I'm always listening to like music. When I have like, burning the midnight oil, got to crank out a deck or something, I'm usually listening to music. And I listen to like a lot of old school reggae, like hard to find, obscure, like 1960s, 70s, dusty old records. And a lot of that you find on YouTube, not so much Pandora or Spotify. They're just not, or Apple, they're not on there yet. So YouTube, and you actually see them spinning the records, and something mesmerizing about that. So a lot of YouTube. I'd say the other place, just discovered a podcast called the Caribbean Data Scientist Podcast by Mark Molloy. And so that just discovered it this week. And that's really held my attention. Very interesting, very, very, where I was talking about, traditional market research and insights in this new world. It helps me, it gives me language for this new world. And the conversation around artificial intelligence is it's fascinating. So that's another. And then I do a lot of parenting podcasts and articles, and just tips and tricks for, how to work with a 5-year-old who's going through 5-year-old things.
Yeah.
And the last area I'd say is I fancy a podcast called Choose FI, which is Choose Financial Independence. And there's a whole FIRE movement. Are you familiar with the FIRE movement?
I'm not sure. So
yeah, FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early.
Right. Yeah.
And one of my good friends and industry friends, she put me on to it years ago. And so I love the podcast because it just gives you a lot of great like hacks and tips and things to think about, like how your money should align with your values, and why would someone want to retire early, and to what end, and budgeting tips and investment hacks, all that fun stuff. So
cool. Is there a show from somewhere across the BET networks that you would recommend?
Oh, yes. So the one show I'd recommend that I'm just a huge fan of is First Wives Club. So that's on BET Plus. That is our streaming platform. Love it. Like it reminds me of a grown woman version of Girls, which was Lena Dunham's. The Cure, Issa Rae's. It addresses like this slightly older age relevant group for me that I can relate to, and
Sure.
conversations around, relationships and careers and interpersonal relationships with, your girlfriends and whatnot. So I just love the content, and that's written by Tracy Oliver, and Michelle Bateau is on it, and she's plays one of the characters, and she's hilarious. I laugh nonstop with her. So yeah, I love First Wives Club.
Awesome. Super cool. Well, you mentioned being a big music fan. I'm a big music fan as well. And you've already given some clues about your answer to this question. Some old school reggae, great stuff. But I have to ask. I mean, you're already in the islands, right? So you're stranded on a desert island, Bianca. You've got 3 records. Your choice to choose to keep you company for the rest of your days. What are they?
My gosh. So not only am I going to tell you, I'm going to show you, because I love records and vinyls so much. So
oh yeah, now you're talking.
There's this amazing record store off White Plains Road here in the Bronx called Moody's Records, and that's where I go and vinyl hunt. And so the 3 I would bring, one would be, this is the Best of Alton Ellis. If you can see, it looks kind of aged. It's fantastic. So Breaking Up is Hard to Do, Sitting in the Park, Still I Try, Willow Tree, beautiful. And it's by Studio One, which this one's Coxsone Records, but Coxsone started actually Studio One. So Studio One is like the Motown of Jamaica. So great 60s, 70s, like the infusion of like you could think Temptations meets like reggae. So that's a lot of the music coming out. So this is a little bit more kind of contemporary-ish. So this is Sanchez, I Can't Wait. So this is I Can't Wait is one of my favorite songs. And he does a lot of covers. But what I love about this record, Matt, is that there's like a signature, and it says Shotgun Johnny. I'm like, who is Shotgun Johnny? I want to find him.
Very cool.
The third one would be another along the lines of Temptations, but one of their covers, A Love I Can Feel. This is John Holt. So he's another legend. And this is a Studio One album. But yeah, I collect, and I sometimes even will wear the white gloves when I touch them.
That's pretty serious. Pretty serious. When you've got your hands on the good stuff, though, right? You've got to do it right. So
there you go.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate that so much. Of course, I've got vinyl behind me. I'm all about the vinyl, and I love props. So thank you for bringing it.
Yes, no problem. My pleasure.
All right, Bianca. This has been great. Really appreciate you sharing your story of market research, which is actually different from so many people. You planned to get into it and you got into it. And of course, the tragic story of your friend Shalon turned into an opportunity for you to really bring something positive about it. So thank you so much for your time, Bianca. Let's definitely stay in touch. Can't wait to see you speak again at some conference somewhere. So thanks so much, and rock and roll.
This was fun. Let's do it.